What's up, guys? Jazzy here once again with another divisional breakdown. Today we're going to be looking at the Pacific Division out west, where we have teams like the Phoenix Suns, the Los Angeles Lakers, the LA Clippers, the Sacramento Kings, and the Golden State Warriors. So we're going to be taking a look at all five of those teams today and just kind of go more into depth about their rosters as well as any offseason moves that they have made or are currently trying to make. And we're going to start off with the Phoenix Suns today. We have obviously Devin Booker coming back with the Suns. Once again, he'll be entering his seventh season in the NBA, and you see his numbers really haven't fallen off. He's still an elite scorer, an absolute marksman from deep. And the hope here with Phoenix is that they can surround him with enough pieces and talent in order to hang on to Booker once he becomes unrestricted free agent 3 years from now. He's been very vocal about wanting to be on a competitive team. He wants to make the playoffs. Um, he's getting tired of being a lottery team. He's tired of being the guy on a team that just fizzles out and doesn't become a playoff team. So hopefully the Suns here can piece together enough around Devin Booker to entice him to stay. Last season they went 7-16. They were the 13th team in the Western Conference standing wise, and really they struggled defensively, allowing about 109 points a game, which with a team this young, that's kind of expected to happen. So you hope that they can turn it around a bit and improve on the defensive end, because offensively they have the potential to be elite on that end of the floor. But coming back with Booker, you have former first overall pick in 2018, DeAndre Ayton. Ayton is heading into his fourth season now. He'll be a restricted free agent at the end of the year, but look for the Suns to max him out once his current contract is up. Ayton is just a throwback center, real big body. He's 6'11", 250. And he's very skilled as well for his size. Just an absolutely great rebounder. He can crash glass with the best of them. He can finish inside extremely well. He might be one of the premier finishers in the NBA as far as big men goes. And then he's even started to show the ability to stretch the floor and space it out for that Suns offense. He's a pretty solid mid-range shooter at this point in time, but he has yet to really expand out to the three-point line and take his jump shot to the next level, to where he can start knocking down corner threes on a regular basis, or run pick and pops with Booker, or and really any of their other guards that they might have, like LaMelo Ball. So really look for Ayton to keep improving, keep grinding. He's only 23, so he's still extremely young, just trying to get better in the NBA. But joining Ayton and Booker is the fourth overall pick in this year's draft, Evan Mobley. Mobley. I'm gonna say Mobley, but Mobley is a 7-footer, legit 7-footer. He can play the 4 next to Ayton, or he can play the 5 when Ayton is off the floor. He has great size. I mean, just an extremely athletic forward here. Um, he has the potential to outshine Ayton, it seems. And if they end up not working out together fit wise, I imagine Ayton's going to be the odd man out of this rotation, because Phoenix is very high on Mobley's upside and what he brings to the table. He's a little more skilled than Ayton is, just not the physical um, specimen that Ayton is. He's still not as strong as you would like him to be, especially in a low post defense. But he has great instincts on his shot blocking, and really he could be a pretty impactful defender at that 4 spot, thanks to that shot blocking and help side defense. So Mobley could have a huge year as a rookie in Phoenix. He's going to be a walking mismatch if he starts at the 4 spot. I mean, it's hard to match up with a guy that's 7 foot 220 at power forward. I mean, with the league going a lot smaller, the Suns are kind of bucking the trend here. They're following that Ralph Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon type of mold where you have two ginormous big men in your front court, but both are very skilled and they're not lumbering guys. It's not like it's Greg Ostertag down there with you know like Greg Ostertag and Sean Bradley or something down there. Both of these guys are very skilled, very athletic. Really, they should be a good fit together, but we'll see how it pans out. Next, we have Derrick Jones Jr. Derrick Jones was acquired from Miami in the Kelly Oubre deal last season that sent Oubre to South Beach. Jones really is the prototypical 3-and-D player, extremely athletic. He's a former dunk contest champion. You hope that he can improve that 3 ball just a little bit further, just so that way he can be a reliable option in drive and kick scenarios. Because if you have two guys like Ayton and Mobley down there eating space, you're hoping that Jones can take his jump shot to that next level and become a 40% shooter from deep. But he's a tremendous defender, one of the premier defenders this season. So hopefully he can keep improving his game and keep rounding out his game and become a more well-rounded player. Also coming back is Michael Bridges, one of the two. Bridges is he's another tremendous defender. He has a pretty decent 3 ball along with his defense. So they're hoping that he can kind of break his slump here, because the last 2 seasons he really hasn't shot the ball well. He's been a bit of a liability offensively when he's on the floor, and no matter how much of a liability, no matter how great you are defensively, there's no getting around the fact that you're a liability on offense. Just ask a guy like Andre Roberson in Oklahoma City. He was a tremendous defender, really an elite defender, but thanks to his non-existent offensive game, Roberson really kind of struggled to continue to make an impact in OKC. Teams were sagging off of him, just essentially not paying any attention to him and using him using his defender to double team Russell Westbrook and Paul George. So you hope the same thing doesn't happen here with Bridges, where teams start doubling Booker and Ayton and Mobley, because you want a guy that can keep the defenses honest and make them stay home on you. So hopefully Bridges can work on his shooting ability, because he has a great jump shot. It's just a matter of consistency and putting it together. But also returning to the Suns is former 6th overall pick in 2020, LaMelo Ball. Ball is just 19 years old. He came, straight out of high school. He played in Australia for a season. Ball is a very intriguing prospect. He's last season he had a very strong rookie year. He put up almost 17 points a game, along with 5 boards and 6 assists. Ball really is he's a tremendous athlete at point guard. He's 6'7", so the thing that you love with Ball there is his prototypical size, his ability to see the floor. Thanks to his size, he can see over top of defenders and make really just passes that most point guards can't make because of his size. You think of a guy like a Ben Simmons, LeBron James, guys like that, Penny Hardaway, Magic Johnson. Not saying that LaMelo Ball is even close to that caliber of player yet, but he definitely fits that mold as a playmaker. One thing that you'd like to see improve out of Ball more than anything is his defense. Basically, if you're a 6'7" point guard, you have to be an elite defender. Otherwise, guys are just going to blow by you. Pretty much at will, especially in the Western Conference, because you have guards like Stephen Curry, D'Angelo Russell, Damian Lillard, LeBron James plays some point guard, Donovan Mitchell, now Colin Sexton. You have a ton of point guards with top end speed and agility. So LaMelo being on the floor is a bit of a liability on the defensive end, especially if he's sharing the floor with Devin Booker, who's not a tremendous defender in his own right. Uh, but Ball really needs to improve his defense. He needs to become a more instinctual defender. Work on that lateral quickness. Just overall get a little faster. Adjust to the NBA game a bit, because the way it is right now, Ball is one of the worst defenders in the league, and really there's just no getting around that. If you're a liability on defense, I mean, it's going to be tough to find minutes for you. So hopefully Ball can turn that around. Because really he's a pretty solid scorer, and he already has elite playmaking and floor vision for a guard his age. So hopefully Ball can turn his defense around there. Then you have Cam Johnson coming back to the Suns. He was the 11th pick of the 2019 draft. He was a bit of an older rookie. Out of North Carolina. He's coming into his third season. He's already 25. He's going to be 26 this season. So really you hope that the improvement comes fast for Johnson. He's already an elite shooter. Shouldn't really have any problems finding minutes for this Suns squad. Thanks to that shooting, because if you have two big men like Ayton and Mobley sharing the front court together, you're going to want a guy like Cam Johnson along the perimeter. Sorry guys, I just woke up like half an hour ago. But Cam Johnson really is he's an elite shooter, and really he's an ideal pairing with Ayton and Mobley in that front court. So we hopefully see him get some more minutes this season. Also coming back is Javon Carter, just a real bulldog type of point guard. He could even start for this team if LaMelo Ball's defense doesn't end up working out. I think he's a better fit next to Devin Booker anyway at this point, but obviously you let Ball play those minutes to develop him and develop that chemistry with Devin Booker. But Carter's really a Patrick Beverley type of player, where he's just a bulldog. He's going to hound you with 100% effort, no matter if he's playing 8 minutes or 38 minutes in the game. He's going to be playing at his highest level. He's a great shooter at point guard. I mean, he has good size, 6'1", 200 pounds, so he's a very strong point guard that can use his body well on both ends of the floor. So we'll see if Carter can get some more minutes for the Suns team that desperately needs an elite defender, and Carter can really provide that in spades. Next and finally, we have Ty Jerome, another point guard for the Suns team. Jerome is a lights out shooter. He can play make with the best of them. Really, he's a pretty solid playmaker, and he's 6'5". So like LaMelo Ball, he has that size to see over the top of the defense and make those tough entry passes down low to Ayton and Mobley. Jerome is a better shooter than Ball is at this point. Not quite the playmaker that he is, but he's a better defender as well. Not the athlete that Ball is, but he's a very smart, very calculated point guard, and really he could become a pretty solid player for this Suns team, and if not, he could go elsewhere and really carve out a role for himself as a bench point guard, because he's a very well-rounded guy, has great size. He's 6'5". You hope that Jerome can keep adding to his game and becoming a more and more efficient player for the Suns. But also, the Phoenix Suns are looking to make some strides in free agency. They have offered Chris Paul a 1-year, $12.12 million deal. Doesn't look like that's going to be accepted, as teams like the Lakers and the Spurs, they have all been shelling out money for Chris Paul, and he's likely to sign with either the Lakers or the Spurs in this moment. And you remember, Chris Paul declined his player option to return to the Utah Jazz for about $45 million. So Paul looking to sign with a team like the Lakers, where he can join his friend, a longtime friend, LeBron James, while also securing a more long-term contract. But back to the Suns, Phoenix, they're also looking to acquire Kyle Lowry in free agency. They've offered him a deal. They've offered LaMarcus Aldridge, and he looks to be pretty likely to sign. That would make a very formidable front court rotation. You have Aldridge that can play with either Ayton or Mobley, so you'll have two of those three guys on the floor at almost all times. So that'd be an excellent front court rotation and a great, veteran presence for those two guys as well. He's 36, going into his 16th season, and he can still get it done offensively. He's a absolutely elite mid-range shooter. And next up here we have the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers have been struggling a bit the last two seasons. Last season they went 9-12. They were just outside of the 8th seed. So they fell short of the playoffs yet again for the second consecutive year. And you're hoping that the Lakers can kind of put it all together, because they have two of the probably top 5 players in the league today, if not top 10, in Anthony Davis and LeBron James. LeBron ended up opting into his player option for $41 million this year to return to the Los Angeles Lakers. It's rumored that he's been working on Space Jam 3 after Space Jam 2 was an absolutely huge success in the holiday season of 2020. So a big part of LeBron staying, many are speculating, is because of his Hollywood career. You would think that a guy like LeBron, who's 36 going on 37, wouldn't want to stay with a team like the Lakers if they're struggling to make the playoffs. But then again, when you look at it, they still have a pretty talented core. With that front court with him and Anthony Davis. Davis is one of the truly elite big men in the league. He might be, if he were a center, he'd probably be the best center in the NBA, but he likes to consider himself a power forward, very much like Kevin Garnett, in that he doesn't want to play the 5, he just wants to play the 4. But Davis, extremely skilled, extremely athletic, and just an absolutely insane defensive player. So you're hoping that LeBron and Davis can keep righting the ship in LA and that they can get back to the playoffs. But coming back with them is Kyle Kuzma. Kuzma just signed a 4-year deal with the Lakers to return. He was a restricted free agent, former 27th overall pick in 2017, a bit of a sleeper pick, and he ended up panning out tremendously well for the Lakers. His numbers have dipped a little bit the past 2 years in comparison to his rookie and sophomore years. Um, but he's still a very gifted scorer. For a guy his size, he's 6'8", 220, so he can play either the 3 or the 4 spot. Really, he's best suited at that 4 position, which makes you hope that Anthony Davis can transition to the center role. Um, as time goes on here, because Kuzma is really best suited at the 4 spot, and at this point he's one of their better players, so you're hoping that he can be a starter for the Lakers and start either at that 3 or that 4 spot, depending on where LeBron and Davis are playing at. But also returning to the Lakers is Jordan Clarkson. Clarkson was in that I believe 4-team deal last season that saw Clarkson and Tony Bradley move to the Lakers from the Utah Jazz. The Jazz, of course, got Ricky Rubio in the deal. The Suns, they were involved. They got Danny Green from LA. So Clarkson is really he's really a very valuable member of this Lakers team due to his scoring ability. Really, they don't have many guards on the roster as of now. Really, they don't have many players yet, as they're still looking to make some splashes in free agency and get their guys. But Clarkson, he's one of their best ball handlers. Can play either guard spot. He's really a tremendous scorer, great bounce ability. He's a very bouncy player. Just moves incredibly well on the floor, and he's 29, so he's in the prime of his career. You hope that Clarkson can have a big season for the Lakers. Also joining the Lakers this offseason is JJ Redick. Redick is 37 years old, going on his 16th season in the NBA. And he signed a 3-year, roughly $16 million deal with the Lakers. And really, he fits their biggest need, and that's, a lights-out shooter. Redick can step in right away. He can be a focal point of the bench offense. He could even start next to LeBron in that backcourt, and he can really be a tremendous asset to this Lakers team, because he's still one of the elite shooters in the NBA. You can't leave this guy open, and even if you don't leave him open, he could still shoot it heavily contested and drain it in your face. So Redick, even though he's getting older, he's still a very valuable piece, and a very valuable player on the floor as well. Not only due to his shooting, but due to his locker room presence. He's a winner. He wants to win games. He doesn't want to come in and be, on a lottery team. He wants to come in and he wants to get to the playoffs. So hopefully the Lakers can help him get back there, and hopefully he can help the Lakers get back there as well. But also coming back is Trey Jones. Jones was the 12th pick of the 2020 draft. Really high upside guy. Really had a pretty underrated season with the Lakers as a rookie. He's a bit raw offensively, but defensively he is a very stout defender at the point guard spot. He has enough size to move to the 2 guard spot if need be, but really you want him playing that 1 spot where he can facilitate for his teammates. He's a great playmaker on the perimeter, and he's a great defender, and hopefully he keeps adding to his offensive arsenal. Right now he's a little one-dimensional on offense, just kind of stand in the corner, and wait for Braun or Davis to kick it out to you. So hopefully he can keep adding to his game there and become a better and better player. And then rounding out the current Lakers roster before any free agents sign is Pau Gasol. Pau Gasol, 41 years old, entering his 21st season in the NBA. Gasol really, he's sticking around somehow. I mean, you look at the numbers, not really that impressive. The last few years definitely has taken a drop off from his years in San Antonio and Chicago. That's without mentioning his All-Star seasons in LA and Memphis. But even when he was in San Antonio and Chicago, when he was starting to enter the twilight of his career, he was still a very productive offensive player and was really a valuable asset for those for those Bulls and Spurs teams. So Gasol, you're hoping can be a mentor for this Lakers squad. You're hoping that they can bring in some undrafted guys that can really learn a lot from guys like Gasol, Davis, and LeBron, even JJ Redick. Really, this team has a lot to offer for a young guy like that. So you hope that they can have the foresight to go into the off season, or what's left of the off season, and get some undrafted guys to fill out the roster, because they could really learn a lot from this team. And next up, we have the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers have been one of, if not the most active team this offseason, for better or for worse. So obviously, they were able to bring back superstar Kawhi Leonard. Leonard, who had played only 2 years with the Clippers, elected to re-sign with them for a 4-year max offer sheet. He's getting paid, so it's going to be tough for the Clippers to continue to build around Kawhi Leonard through free agency. They're going to have to be a little more savvy with their pickups. Make splashes through trades, and which that's exactly what they did before free agency started. They made a splash in the trade market by trading Patrick Beverley to the Boston Celtics. They picked up Kemba Walker. Walker is still a stud scorer at point guard. He can score from all three levels. Very quick, very shifty point guard. Not quite the playmaker that you would want him to be at that lead guard spot, but he can still facilitate for his teammates. But for the most part, he's going to be looking for his own shot first and foremost, which really should mesh well for the Clippers, because they have Kawhi Leonard, and when you have Kawhi Leonard, you hope that he can have the ball in his hands about 75-80% of the time. So Walker could be playing a lot more off ball than he's used to. And really, the thing with Walker is he's an elite shooter. I think he has the capability to be a great scorer off the ball for the Clippers. But also joining LA is PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker signed a 3-year, was that roughly 50 million this offseason with the Clippers. It was a bit of an overpay for a guy that's 36 going into his 11th season. Tucker, he is what he is at this point. He's a very solid defender. He can defend inside or on the perimeter. You can use him in extreme small ball lineups, put him at the 5. Really, Tucker is he could be a very valuable asset for this Clippers team, because obviously not only is he a great defender, but he's an excellent three-point shooter, especially from the corner as well. That's where he makes his money, really, is in the corners. So, like I said, a bit of an overpay for PJ Tucker. We'll see if it's worth it for the Clippers after they lost Paul George to the Atlanta Hawks in free agency. Um, Also coming back is Derek Favors. Favors is 30. He'll be 31 this season, going into his 12th year in the league. He's been around a very long time. He's seen a lot of things, and he's been on a few teams the past couple years. After he was traded to the New Orleans Pelicans from the Utah Jazz in the 2019 offseason. He was then traded, and part of that Hassan Whiteside deal, he was traded to the Detroit Pistons, and then he was a free agent last offseason, and he signed a 2-year deal with the Clippers for about $14 million a year. So the thing with Favors is he's a very stout defensive center. He's a good rim runner, and he can score from the mid range as well. Not quite the 3-point shooter that you would want him to be, but he can hit from the corners if he's wide open. I mean, really, this is he's a great rim protector. Good veteran presence down low, and one of the elite offensive rebounders in the NBA. Um, and with him is Ivica Zubac. Zubac is entering his 6th season. He'll be about 25 this year. And he's still got some upside. He's not quite in his prime yet, but he still has some potential to get even better as a 5. He has great size. He's 7 foot, 240 pounds, and he's pretty skilled as well. Not a 3-point shooter or anything like that, but he has good ball skills, and has a nice touch inside, especially off of offensive putbacks. I mean, this guy he can get an offensive board and he can put it back no problem for you. He's a decent post defender inside. Uses his size pretty well on the defensive end to block shots and get rebounds. So we'll see what happens with Zubac here, as he does have a team option after this season for $7 million. So we'll see if he ends up staying in LA throughout the season. And then next we have, and oh my god, I'm going to mispronounce this, Mfuyando Kabengele. I think I got that maybe right, who knows. But he's another big man for the Clippers. Very athletic guy. He can finish inside. He can even stretch out a little bit to the 3-point line. You don't want him living out there per se, but he can stretch defenses out and keep them honest at least a little bit. He's a great interior defender, not really the shot blocker that you would expect out of a big man due to his size, because he's only 6'9", but he has great help instincts. He can help on drives in the very rare case that a guy like Kawhi Leonard gets burned on defense. Kabengele can come in and step up and take that help side defense no problem. He is only 23. He was taken in the 27th pick of round 1 in 2019. And he's got 2 more years yet, so he's still a young, growing player with a lot of upside. So we could see him starting this season for the Clippers if things start to go awry again, where they don't make the playoffs. Also returning to the Clippers is Landry Shamet. Shamet is 24, lights out shooter. Can really fill it up in a moment's notice off of the bench. Really, this is the kind of guy that every team wants to have on their team. Just a guy that can come off the bench and knock down tough shots. He's a very timely shot creator. He can create for himself, and he can play really either guard spot, either the 1 or the 2. He's better suited at the 2, but he could stretch to the 1 if need be, but he doesn't really have the playmaking skills necessary to be effective there full time. Also returning to the Clippers is Terrence Mann. Mann really hasn't received a whole lot of playing time so far in his short career, but he's still pretty young. He's 24. He's pretty athletic, and he can score a bit. So hopefully, hopefully we see Terrence Mann start to carve out a role for himself with this Clippers team. And then rounding out the Clippers lineup for now is Peyton Pritchard. Pritchard was a 1-year pro out of Oregon. He's heading into his second year. He's taken with the 29th pick of 2020. He's another guard with a decent shot. He can fill it up. He's arguably the best shooter on the team, aside from maybe Leonard. But really, the thing that you want to see him improve on is his defense. It's hard to get minutes in the NBA if you're a turnstile, especially at point guard in the West, because you have so many fast guards. So hopefully Pritchard can turn that around and at least become a serviceable defender on defense. And you see in free agency, the Clippers really haven't been able to target a whole lot after signing Kawhi Leonard and then also trading for Kemba Walker. So they're going to be relying on some vet minimum deals, some undrafted guys to fill out their roster, but they should still have a pretty strong roster heading into season 3, and you hope that they can get back into the playoffs. The Clippers also got a great value in picking up veteran Trevor Ariza. Ariza's heading into his 18th season in the NBA. He's been around since 2004, and he's still just 36 years old. Even if he's not a very productive player anymore at this point, he's still a quality vet that can really help out the young guys. You know, guys like Landry Shamet. They can really learn a lot from a guy like Ariza, especially on the defensive end. He can really help a guy like Shamet become a more passable defender, because at this point Shamet really doesn't have that going for him on that end of the floor. So Ariza could be a very good mentor for a guy like Shamet to help grow in that regard. And then even then, Ariza's still able to get it done. You don't want him playing big minutes, but he is a pretty decent shooter yet, and he still has that defensive savvy, that defensive IQ. He can still get it done on both ends of the floor. So this is a very good pickup for the Clippers at a very low cost for them. Next up in the Pacific Division is the Golden State Warriors. Golden State really has kind of been middle of the pack the past couple seasons. Last season they were actually the 5th seed in the West, but they ended up losing in the first round to the Portland Trailblazers. So the thing with Golden State that you hope for is continuity kind of going into effect here with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and then Draymond Green still holding it down from those championship teams, but then also younger guys. You have guys like Andrew Wiggins, Eric Paschall, Isaiah Stewart, Usman Garuba, who was just drafted this season, and then Jordan Poole, Alexej Pokusevsky, DJ Jeffries, and then Alan Smailagic. Man, Golden State, you have to stop getting guys that I can't pronounce. But anyway, obviously they have former MVP Stephen Curry returning to the Warriors. Steph Curry, he's had 2 incredible seasons so far this cycle in 3-and-D. He's been close to 50, 90 seasons, and he very, very nearly got consecutive 50, 40, 90 seasons. He missed it by 0.01% in season 1 while putting up 30 points a game. So the thing with Steph is he is still at the top of his game, just 33, So he has a few more years left in him. He is going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season, though. And the thing with Golden State is you want to make a strong case that he can come back and still be, for the most part, the guy on the team while also trying to compete for championships. Um, Curry, he's like he has a game that's going to age perfectly. Um, he's the greatest shooter of all time. He can score anywhere on the floor. As soon as he crosses half court, he's an elite playmaker, and he's serviceable on on the defensive end as well. Um, as he starts to slip athletically, I imagine his defense is going to fall off a little bit. He'll still have the instincts and getting steals and passing lanes and all that, but he's not going to be the on-ball defender that he currently is, say, 2 or 3 years from now. So it'll be interesting to see what Golden State does with Curry, whether they bring him back or if they let him walk. Really, it's up in the air at this point, but I would say he's most likely to return to Golden State. Coming back with Curry is longtime teammate Klay Thompson. Thompson has been Steph's teammate since 2011 when he was drafted to the Warriors, and they've been one of the best NBA backcourts of all time ever since. And the same thing here with Steph Curry. Klay just has a game that's going to age tremendously well in today's league. He's a absolutely elite defender as well to add to his game, and he's really not not all that athletic to start off with. So you hope that he can still retain some of that defense as he ages into his mid 30s. But for now, he's still in his prime. Numbers wise, he's taken a bit of a dip last season, but you could really expect him to get back up to 20 points per game as he gels more with guys like Andrew Wiggins. And then speaking of Wiggins, he came into Golden State from the trade with D'Angelo Russell, and he really made a mark early, putting up 19 a game. Wiggins, he's still young, not quite yet in his prime, so he can still add to his game a little bit and become an even more efficient player. You hope that he can really hone his jump shot and turn that into a more serious weapon than it is, because really the main thing with him is he's an elite slasher and he can create for himself. He's really not that good of a passer, though, so you hope that he can also add that to his game as well and improve on the defensive end. Something that Klay Thompson can definitely help him out with is perimeter defense. So hopefully Wiggins can keep growing and adding to his game. He still has 2 years left on his contract. And then returning is Draymond Green. Draymond is the linchpin of this Warriors team. Still an absolutely incredible defender, one of the best defenders in the NBA today, even at 31 years old. Offensively, he's starting to turn into a little bit of a liability. He's not an elite shooter, just serviceable at best from deep, and then he really kind of struggles to create his own shot at times, so really he needs to be kind of spoon-fed on the offensive end, but really the majority of his value comes from his defense and his playmaking ability, because he's a tremendous playmaker at that 4 spot, even the 5 spot when he plays small ball. Really, Draymond's still an elite player in today's league. Really, he's all that you can ask for out of a modern big man. And then there's Eric Paschall. Pascal's just 24, entering his 3rd season in the league. Very skilled forward, can play either the 3 or the 4 spot, and he's pretty athletic as well. Hopefully he can hone his defensive craft a little bit, because he's really not that great of a defender yet. And also he's pretty lacking in the playmaking department as well. He can kind of create his own shot, but you hope that he can do it better than he currently does now. But he really doesn't get his teammates involved all that much, so hopefully he can improve on that end of his game. And then Isaiah Stewart, the second-year player, he was picked with the 16th pick in 2020. Stewart has great size. He can play either the 5 or the 4 spot. Not really a shooter or anything like that, just a athletic beast. Good post defender, good on the glass. He can score inside, and really has a lot of potential yet as well. Stewart, you're hoping can take that next step toward becoming a starting level big man in the NBA, because really there's not much for centers ahead of him on the depth chart, aside from maybe Draymond Green if you start him at the 5. But Stewart really can carve out a role for himself in Golden State. And then there is Usman Garuba. Garuba was picked with the 14th pick in this draft. He's a rookie out of Spain. He's another 6'9" forward for the Warriors. And again, like Stewart, he's not much of a shooter, not much of a skill guy yet. What he brings to the table is athleticism, defense, and finishing ability inside. But again, he's another high potential guy. He could really become a defensive stalwart for this Warriors team. And then rounding out the roster, you have Jordan Poole, the third-year guard out of Michigan. He's only 22. He can keep improving as well and become an elite shooter in the league. Aleksej Pokusevski. He's also coming back, or he was actually drafted in this draft with the 22nd pick. So really another center for the Warriors. He's a lot more skilled than the other two are. He has jump shot ability. He can stretch out the floor, but he's not nearly the athlete or defender that the other two centers are. So it'll be curious to see what Golden State does with those three young big men, as really they all just start their careers with the Warriors. Who gets the start, who rides the bench, who plays with who. It's going to be interesting to see what transpires here in Golden State. And then finally, we have the reigning Western Conference champions, the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento, you don't see it on here yet, but they do have De'Aaron Fox coming back on a 5-year max contract. Fox was in the MVP race last season as the Kings stormed their way to the first overall seed in the Western Conference, and then eventually made it to the NBA Finals. So it's great to see Fox return with the Kings. There was virtually 0% chance of him going anywhere thanks to his restricted free agency. But still, it's great to see the Kings retain Fox and keep building this young, talented core. Returning with Fox is Marvin Bagley. Bagley looks to be starting at the 5 this season, taking that next step toward becoming an elite big man in the NBA. This is a guy that's very skilled as a big man. He can shoot, he can finish inside, he can even handle a little bit, and he can score in the post as well. Defensively, he's still figuring it out a bit. He has decent instincts, and he's a good rebounder. He's a tremendous athlete, so you hope that helps his case on the defensive end. But with him starting at the 5 and Richaun Holmes departing in free agency, it's going to be a bit of a culture change for the Kings, which is something that you necessarily don't want to have when you're the reigning Western Conference champions, because you were successful at what you were doing. And that was, Richaun Holmes locking down the paint with Marvin Bagley next to him at the 4 spot, getting mismatches. So hopefully Bagley can really turn his defense into a strong suit and become a much better rim protector than he currently is. Also, joining the Kings is a young wing player, Luke Kennard. Kennard was a standout with Detroit the past couple years, really came into his own as a scorer, and he signed quite the offer sheet to join Sacramento. It was about 4 years, 105, 110 million. Um, just an offer that the Detroit Pistons could not possibly match. So Kennard departs Detroit for Sacramento in restricted free agency. And really, he's an elite shooter. He can definitely score with the best of them, and even play make a little bit at that 2 or 3 spot. And he still has some upside as well at only 25 years old. Um, Coming back is Bogdan Bogdanovic. This guy's just a tremendous scorer, absolute elite shooter. He can play make a bit, not quite a good defender. And really, he's already in the prime of his career at 28, despite just playing 4 years in the NBA. But you see, he has a front-loaded contract, so in 23-24 season, he will be at just 12 million a year. Also returning for the Kings is Terry Rozier. Rozier is a 27-year-old point guard. He started his career with the Boston Celtics and went to Charlotte for a bit, and then he was traded for Harrison Barnes and really came to Sacramento and became a very productive role player for the Kings. Him and Julius Randle really held down that bench and made that bench unit the best bench in the NBA. So it's great to see Rozier back, and they're hoping that they can bring back Julius Randle as well to keep that bench duo together, because that bench duo was definitely the best reserve unit in the league. Also joining the Kings is Daniel House. He joined last season through a trade from Houston. House is a good shooter with good size along the perimeter. He can play at the 3, the 4, or possibly even the 2 spot if needed. He's a very good pickup for the Kings and could definitely be an impact player for them. And then we get to Cedi Osman. Cedi is a lights-out shooter with great size, really uses his body well to score inside as well. And he's on an absolutely tremendous contract. The thing here with Cedi is he's just, like I said, an elite shooter. He shot 50, 40, 80, actually 50, 47, 80 last season. So you're hoping that he can keep growing as he goes into his prime here. He's just 26 years old and still has a lot of room to grow as a player. Rounding out the Kings bench, we have Joe Harris. He's another elite marksman from deep on a very good deal. He was getting shopped by the Kings. It's uncertain yet if he's still going to be moved or not, but he could definitely still be an impact player for them. We have a second-year player, Ayo Dosunmu. Sorry, jump. But he was the 18th pick of 2020. He'll be in his second year. He's an absolutely elite scorer as well for a guy his age. He'll definitely come into his second season with a lot of confidence. Then there's rookie Isaiah Jackson, picked with the 29th overall pick. Just a big body, 6'10", good finisher inside, tremendous athlete. He's still very, very raw, but he should be able to put it together as time goes on. He's only 19 years old, and he has a lot to learn yet, but he could be a very solid pickup for the Kings. And then last but not least is Kamar Baldwin out of Butler. Baldwin is a second-year vet now in the league. He was picked in the second round of 2020, and he's just another elite shooter. And that's the main thing that you're going to notice with this Kings roster is elite shooting and elite scoring. So really, Sacramento brings back the majority of their core, especially if they bring back Julius Randle. They do lose Richaun Holmes, which is a big hit, but they're hoping that Marvin Bagley can step into that center role and become a dominant 5 moving into the future. And as you can see, the Kings did end up bringing back Julius Randle. The rumors were true. Randall, who was, I believe, the sixth man of the year last season in 3 and D, he had a career year for them. Put up 17 and 9 a game. Very efficient shooting. Very just a very talented scorer off the bench for the Kings. He really provided a great spark for them, so it's nice to see Randall come back to Sacramento on a fairly reasonable deal. Obviously, it's a 3-year deal, getting about 14 million per year. Um, so that's pretty good value for a guy like Randall who can really come off the bench or even start for you and bring a lot of high energy and a great inside presence on the offensive end for a team like Sacramento. He can play next to Marvin Bagley. He can play next to really any other big man that they might pick up yet. And you look at their roster and you see that they're still pretty thin on like pretty thin in the big men. They really don't have a true center. Marvin Bagley would be the closest to that, maybe Isaiah Jackson, but both of those guys, they're not very big in size. Obviously, they're athletic, they're lengthy, but they're not typically strong players that you would have at the five, such as a guy like an Embiid, a Gobert, Jokic, a guy like that who can bully his way into the paint and be an interior force. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Sacramento in that regard, whether they're able to pick up another big man or not. So that does it for the Pacific Division. A lot of talent in that division. You have guys like De'Aaron Fox, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, and then vets like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, Kemba Walker. I mean, it's really a star-studded division, and they have the opportunity to have 3 or 4 teams go into the playoffs this season. So we'll see how that turns out for them. But that does it for the Pacific Division. Stay tuned. I will be dropping the Southwest Division next before we move on to the Eastern Conference. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.